Bogle's family restaurant on 8th Avenue isn't exactly a hot spot, but if you're craving a big meal that won't cost much, this is your spot. The dining area has 12 tables, split evenly down the room, 6 on each side. Bogle, the man himself, sits at a desk near the door, handling the money. 2 waitresses keep things running, along with a mysterious voice that shouts orders from the kitchen. At the time of this story, one of the waitresses was Aileen. She was tall, gorgeous, and bursting with energy. The other waitress was Tildy. She was short, chubby, and didn't have Aileen's looks. Most of the diners were men, and they were all head over heels for Aileen. They didn't even mind waiting ages for their food as long as they could admire her. Aileen had a way of chatting up everyone at once while still getting her work done. The men were smitten, always wanting to take her dancing or spoil her with gifts. One guy gave her a gold ring, and another even brought her a little dog. And Tildy? Well, Tildy didn't get the same attention. The men didn't flirt with her or strike up conversations. Nobody invited her out or gave her gifts. She was a solid worker, but when she stood by their tables, the men literally looked right past her to catch a glimpse of Aileen. Even so, Tildy didn't seem to mind. She didn't complain about the lack of attention or the way the men fawned over Aileen. In fact, she was happy just to see Aileen being adored. Tildy was Aileen's friend, but deep down, she couldn't help but wish someone would notice her too. She listened to all of Aileen's dramatic stories. One time, Aileen showed up with a black eye, explaining a guy had hit her because she wouldn't kiss him. Instead of feeling sorry for her, Tildy thought, wow, imagine getting a black eye for love. How romantic. One of the regulars at Bogle's was a quiet, thin guy named Mr. Cedars, who worked in an office. He knew Aileen wasn't interested in him, so he usually sat at one of Tildy's tables, ate his meal, and kept to himself. Then one day, Mr. Cedars came in and had a little too much beer. After finishing his fish, he stood up, walked over to Tildy, wrapped an arm around her, kissed her, loudly, and strolled out of the restaurant like it was no big deal. For a moment, Tildy just stood there, completely stunned. Then Aileen broke the silence, teasing her with a grin. Wow, Tildy, look at you, you little troublemaker. I better keep an eye on you, or you'll be stealing all my admirers. And just like that, Tildy's entire world flipped upside down. For the first time, she realized that men could actually like her, want her, even as much as they liked Aileen. The idea was thrilling. Her cheeks flushed pink, her eyes sparkled, and she suddenly felt a new kind of confidence bubbling inside her. She had her own story now, and she couldn't wait to share it. When things quieted down in the restaurant, she walked over to Bogle's desk, practically bursting with excitement. "Guess what happened to me today?" she said, barely able to contain herself. "A man in the restaurant put his arm around me and kissed me." Bogle raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "No kidding. That's great for business. Starting next week, you're getting $1 more a week." Tildy beamed. It felt like the whole world was finally paying attention to her. Later that evening, when the restaurant got busy again, she leaned in as she served plates and quietly told anyone who'd listen, "Do you know what happened to me today? A man in the restaurant kissed me." The reactions were mixed. Some were shocked, others chuckled, and a few even cheered her on with a hearty, "Good for you." and just like that, the men started smiling at her, saying nice things, and treating her differently. Tildy felt like she was walking on air. For once, her life didn't seem so dull or lonely. Love suddenly felt possible. For 2 days, Mr. Cedars didn't show up. In the meantime, Tildy was practically glowing. She started wearing brighter clothes, styled her hair differently, and even seemed taller and slimmer. She felt like a whole new person, a real woman. Someone had noticed her. Someone had kissed her, and that simple gesture made her feel alive. But she couldn't stop wondering, what would happen when Mr. Cedars came back? On the third day, around 4 in the afternoon, he finally walked in. The restaurant was quiet. No one else was there except Aileen and Tildy, who were busy working in the back. Mr. Cedars approached them hesitantly, his face flushed and his posture awkward. Tildy froze, her heart racing. She couldn't find the words to say anything, but Mr. Cedars spoke first. "Miss Tildy," he began, his voice nervous and apologetic. "I need to apologize for what happened the other day. It was the beer. I wasn't thinking straight. I'm really sorry." And with that, he turned and left. Tildy stood there for a second, completely shattered. Then she ran into the kitchen and broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. The tears wouldn't stop. All the happiness, all the confidence, gone. She didn't feel beautiful anymore. No man loved her. No man wanted her. The kiss that had meant so much to her had meant absolutely nothing to him. She didn't even care about Mr. Cedars as a person, but that kiss had been her glimpse of something special. Now it felt like it had been snatched away, leaving her with nothing but emptiness. But at least she still had Aileen. Her friend came over, wrapped an arm around her, and tried to comfort her, even if she didn't fully understand. "Oh, don't let it get to you, Tildy," Aileen said with a shrug. "That little Cedars guy? He's got a face like a dead potato. Seriously, he's nothing. And besides, a real man never apologizes."